How do you know it's a Chris Brogan video? Because I'm in an elevator. However, why am I in the elevator? Because I left something at home and I had to turn back around and get it before we went on our walk. I swear sometimes I will put a little mental checklist together in my head. I'll remember all the stuff I need for my technical things, and I'll forget the keys to the car. You're a wizard, Chris Brogan. Yeah, so I'm gonna go up to Biddeford, Maine. Skies are a little gray. It might be a partly cloudy scenario going on. We'll find out. I'm gonna try to catch some of the last rays. This is the Fujifilm X-T5 with a big fat honkin' The Big Show to go with it, 75mm lens. And now I have all the things that I need to take with me. Look, keys. So we can get everything loaded in the car and we can get on the way. Yeah, so I'm gonna go up to Biddeford, Maine. It's about an hour from the house. It's a little bit like where I live, where there's a lot of mill buildings and stuff like that, but I'm thinking there's gonna be more of them, and I'm gonna try to get there for sunset. Although, gotta tell you, if you look out here, looks like the sun's getting ready. Sun's going down, big guy, or whatever that quote was. Let's get there. So one thing I thought I could do is, I've got this on a mount, and I will not look at it, I'll just keep my eyes on the road. And one thing I thought I could do is tell you some observations and lessons I've learned in really diving deep into photography over the last bunch of months. First, I think I'll go just a little back and explain my experience with photography has been so on and off. It's been, my grandfather was super into taking a lot of pictures. He had film projection, carousels, slides, and so we would do slide presentations at my grandparents' house. I used to beg them every single time, can we look at some more slides? Can we look at some more slides? So when we'd go visit my grandparents, part of it was looking through sort of family stories. My mom, when I was pretty young, I was like maybe 10 years old, 11, took a course on how to do photography, including developing photography, film photography. Which just reminded me, I got to call back the photo lab and ask them where they are with things. So my mom did photo photography, and so I used to help her kind of figure out compositions and give her ideas on things she might take or whatever for pictures. So that was kind of fun too. My own experience, I have on and off everything from disposable cameras to when digital got cool, taken photos, then left it, then taken them, then left it. I've never considered myself much in the way of a photographer, but probably the first time I had a pretty fun camera in my hand was the Flip Video for making internet videos, and then Panasonic when I went for an event with them in CES in, I don't even remember, like 2010 or 2009 or something. And then around that same time, I also had a project where Nikon sent me one of their cameras, a Nikon D60 at the time, and oh my gosh, what an exciting camera. And it was like, even if I didn't know how to do much of anything with it, it was so fun to go around and take photos. I took some of the best photos I've ever taken. And when I say that, all I'm reacting to is I would get right up in someone who knew me's face, I would take a picture, because the lens was so good, I would get like that bokeh effect with everything sort of blurry in the background. And I walked around thinking, man, I'm a pretty good photographer. But that was the beginning and the end of my photo skills, was the lens could do something, and I was like, yeah, that's cool. So then I've had different point and shoots on and off since then, since like 2014, 2013 or whatever. I've had a Panasonic one, I've had a Canon one, I've had a Sony one, and this spring, I started thinking, man, you know what I would really like to do? I would like to do a little more with photography. I want to get a little more involved. And so I got the Sony Alpha 6000. A6000 is more than 10 years old. It is a powerhouse though. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like the Honda Accord of cameras, because there's just so many of them, because when they came out, they were just all the rage. So I got one for like a little more than $300 online. And then I bought a lens for it. I bought a second lens for it. Decided I didn't need that other lens and sold it, and I got all excited. Then I went crazy and I made sort of a stretch purchase, and I bought the Fujifilm X100 and it's a totally unavailable camera. I went on eBay. I paid more than list price for it, and I was like, oh, now this is the thing. This is great. It can do these cool things. And I immediately decided I didn't like the fact that it didn't have interchangeable lenses and that I didn't have access to the knobs and dials that I wanted. It's got a couple, but it wasn't doing what I wanted. And I saw online that the Fujifilm X-T5 was the one for me. It was the better fit. And so I sold back on eBay the Fujifilm X100 and I got the X-T5, and then I got a pancake lens to almost emulate what I had with the 6, and I said I'll just work with this for a while, and it was great. So in my stable, if you're keeping track, I have all those point and shoots I talked about, the Sony, the Canon, the Lumix, and then I had the A6000, which was working perfectly great, could totally work with that, and I had the new, to me, Fujifilm X-T5, and I one pancake lens. Then I got a bigger lens, like a 17-70 telephoto, and I was like, oh, this is great. And then I went, I don't like it. It's not my thing. And I sold that lens and bought a big honking 75mm lens, specifically for portrait. So it's a very big lens. It's called the Viltrox. It's the one that I've been calling the Big Show, which my friend Chloe named it. And it is right here. This is the X-T5. This is with the big 75mm lens. Now, I have only a couple lenses for this camera. I have that one. I have the pancake I mentioned. And I got this lens that is my absolute favorite lens. It's a 35mm. Shoots kind of equivalent to a 50mm. And that's it. That's my equipment. And then I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sell all of my point and shoots. And so I sold all of my point and shoots, and I got one last camera, which is the Ricoh GR3X. Now, if you're into photography and you're doing any of this journey yourself, the phrase one last camera is a lie. I shortly thereafter went on eBay and found a film camera called the Fujica Auto M that this guy who has like, I don't know, a few thousand followers on YouTube was showing this cool film camera called the Fujica Auto M from the 1960s, somewhere between 1963 and 1968. And I bought it for less than $50. Love it, love it, love it. Don't know if it even works well yet. I put one roll of film through it, and then I sent the film off to be developed, and now I gotta go figure out how it went. So I gotta call them tomorrow. So I have 4. I have the Ricoh GR3X. That is a slip it in the pocket, very tiny, barely noticed it's there, but pretty good damn quality camera. I've got my X-T5, which is the power horse, you know, rawr, the one I love a lot. I take that one above all else. I have the A6000, which I still love, and I will not part with because I love it so much. I think it's just a great device. And then I have the Auto M, which is film, which I am sure that I'm not going to keep up with all that much because film is such a hassle. I have to send it somewhere for development. There's like such a to-do. But what do I get out of these? What have I learned out of all this? I've learned a bunch. First off, something I've come to accept is that if you have ADD, and I'm undiagnosed but pretty damn sure I've passed every test that says I do. If you have ADHD, you dive into, some of us dive into hobbies, get super deep immersed in them, and then quit. And I can tell you right now that I have been fighting that urge because I don't want to quit. I'm really enjoying this so much, and I have so much more I want to do. So I'm going to try to buck the habit of quitting. However, the super immersed part, crazy. Like, I have watched hours and hours of videos. I have read maybe 20 plus, more than 20 plus photo books from my local library. I had to buy a couple because they just couldn't get them in the library. I've really immersed myself in the experience. And what I've learned is I've learned, one, that I love street photography, which is kind of going out and capturing candid photos of people in places where you might not normally have access to it, and trying for a candid sort of a thing. I love what they call street portraits, which is obviously not candid, where I ask someone, hey, can I take your picture? But it's still, what's the word I want to say? Spontaneous. You know, I'm still asking a fairly spontaneous question or request. And so that's that. And then I also love a little bit of architecture, a little bit of travel. And so I think that's been really fun for me as well. So in the process, I've learned what kind of photography I like to shoot. Street, portrait, maybe a little architecture and travel. I have learned what kind of cameras and lenses I tend to prefer. So at this point in my juncture, and I say that just to make sure I leave myself room for some future choice, I'm more into photography than video, which is hilarious because I'm going to make lots of video with you like I always have. I'm also into slightly more the manual side of it. Like, it's not enough to just get the photo and go, that's a really cool photo, which, by the way, I'm looking at these beautiful clouds, but I'm driving, so we're not going to have anything to do with that. But there's these amazing cloud patterns. It's also not my subject matter. I've also learned that in so doing this, it gives me something I can focus on instead of other things, which has been really helpful to me. Helps with anxiety, helps with depression. It keeps my creative eye open, which I think is pretty important. Watching cars do interesting things, which is why I'm paying a lot of attention to the road and not to you, old camera you. I think that the other thing that I'm really grateful for with photography is that I have an opportunity to express and communicate in yet another way. And I love that because I'm a guy who writes books. I'm a guy who's done podcasts. I have the video show, the backpack show with Carrie O'Shea-Gorgon. And photography is another way that I can communicate with people or share a point of view or share some thoughts. And so I really love it. I've enjoyed the journey. I don't have any particular goals or paths in front of me, except just keep getting better at my shots, keep getting a little more brave with portraits. And also, you know, I want to get better and better at my manual settings. I do almost all manual, although every now and again what I'll do is I'll do 2 out of the 3 major elements manual and let the camera handle one part of it. So right now, for instance, I handle the aperture, I handle the shutter speed, and I let the camera handle the ISO or ISO. And I would say that the only problem with that is that my camera says, oh, then if you don't care, I don't care, and I'll make it as grainy as I want to make it. That's maybe not the real goal. But beyond that, and I guess I'll probably want to learn more even still about editing with Lightroom. I enjoy it. I do very minimal things with it, though. And I think that the more I can practice and the more I can start to get my hands around even more of the knowledge, that'll probably be better for all of us. But what a journey. And I hope that, you know, even if you're not like super into photography, I hope that this is interesting in a different way. I hope you're thinking, yeah, that's kind of cool. I like that he's into that sort of stuff. And maybe you're into that sort of thing. Maybe you are into some other thing and you're trying to decide if it's okay to be into it, decide, you know, is it silly to be into it? I'll tell you, so I'm doing it just as a hobby. There's no intention ever of doing anything professional with it. Although, you know, I would be, look, people who run events, if you want to invite me out to your event and you fly me and hotel me, I will do all kinds of candid event photography for you. There you go, that's my one business offer. But I want to just communicate that it's okay. It's okay to just do it because you like it. Just do it for fun. You don't have to impress anybody. You just have to do your own thing and explore and experiment. And you don't have to follow any particular thing. In fact, it's usually better when you don't. So I'm going to let you go. I'm going to get over to Biddeford. I will have a whole photo walk on what I find up in Biddeford, Maine. But thanks for going on my ride with me. I really appreciate it. All right. Be safe.